7 miraculous signs you've received divine revelation are closer to God than ever before. In the quaint village of Longford, whispers of divine encounters floated through the air like a gentle breeze. Locals often gathered to share tales of miraculous signs that seemed scooped from the heavens themselves. For Margaret, a devoted mother, these stories sparked an insatiable longing for a deeper relationship with God. As she stepped into the local chapel each Sunday, the sunbeams that streamed through stained glass seemed to illuminate not just the space around her but her spirit as well. Every heartfelt prayer echoed the yearning in her soul, the desire to feel God's touch, to grasp the divine revelations others spoke of. What followed were moments that felt almost otherworldly. One evening, the sunset erupted into a vivid riot of colors, a canvas painted with golds and fiery oranges, leaving the villagers breathless, a sign they believed whispered of God's glory. And there were the words of strangers, often sent her way. A kind neighbor who offered her luck with an "I'm praying for you," struck her heart like an arrow, affirming that God was listening. Each occurrence turned her eyes toward the sky, flying high with winds of hope, and yet, deep down, she felt an unsettling storm brewing. Tragedy struck when her beloved son, Samuel, fell ill. The doctors shook their heads, fearful murmurs swirled through their small village as despair wrapped a cold grip around her heart. As if witnessing her own soul walking a tightrope between faith and doubt, Margaret gathered strength, kneeling in prayer, her cries reaching for heaven. The community rallied, enveloping her family with prayers, but she felt helpless, drowning in the dark waters of uncertainty. In that low moment, she met an elderly pastor with kind, wise eyes. He spoke of a divine promise: healing awaits those who hold steadfastly to prayer. "Miracles, my dear, often come as a spark ignited in the depths of darkness," he said, his voice a balm. She felt the flicker of faith stir once more within her. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, gathered in the chapel, the villagers' collective heartbeat echoed through the sacred space. Margaret's plea to the heavens poured out like a waterfall, a longing for a miracle that felt tangible in the air. She was met with a presence, one so overwhelming, it wrapped itself around her like a mother's embrace. As she caught her breath, the congregation began to hum, a wave of warmth surged, lifting spirits to heights unimagined. Whispers of hope rose, weaving together, filling the night with an electric anticipation of divine intervention. Overflowing with renewed faith, Margaret couldn't deny what her heart now recognized. After that night, Samuel's condition began to shift. With every moment, hope bloomed where despair had taken root. Villagers marveled at the unfolding transformation, asking themselves about the nature of faith and the signs they missed in their daily lives. Was this healing only the beginning of something God had intended for them all? Standing at the precarious edge between her fears and hopes, Margaret faced an urgent question: could she truly believe in a God who acts even amid chaos? As Samuel improved, the excitement rippled through Longford like wildflowers in spring. New signs appeared, urging her to dig deeper, yet the ultimate answer remained a shadow, lingering just out of reach. What divine mystery awaited them all just beyond the horizon? As the days unfurled like petals in early spring, a renewed sense of collective hope blossomed within the village of Longford. Laughter filled the streets as children played, their spirits buoyed by the contagious energy of shared faith. Margaret, too, felt lighter, as though the weight of her worries was easing. Each morning she awoke to the soft whispers of prayer dancing in her mind, and each evening, she would kneel by Samuel's bed, marveling at the warmth of his little hand in hers. Samuel's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. The pallor once dulled to his cheeks now glowed with an innocent vibrance, a testament to God's grace at work. Margaret often found herself caught in quiet moments of reflection, her soul reaching toward understanding. Yet the deeper questions loomed. If God had turned her sorrow into joy, what other purposes lay hidden beneath the surface? One Sunday, as the congregation gathered for worship, Margaret felt an indescribable restlessness. The chapel, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a cradled space of stirring emotions. As the pastor recited scriptures woven with promises of hope, Margaret's heart intensified with anticipation. It was a feeling that something extraordinary was about to unfold, a divine whisper just waiting to be heard. After the service, she noticed a stranger lingering at the back of the chapel. Nervousness danced in the air around him, as if he was fighting invisible odds just to take a step forward. His eyes found Margaret's and he approached her, shuffled by uncertain intentions. "Excuse me, ma'am," he stammered. "I heard about your son. I've prayed for him." "God does wonders, doesn't he?" Margaret's heart swelled as she nodded, remembering the countless prayers lifted by those around her. Yet there was something deeper in this man's eyes, an understanding that ran parallel to her own journey. He continued, "I've been waiting for signs, too, signs that I should return to my faith after losing my way. Do you believe they come when we least expect it?" Such words floated through her mind, igniting sparks of wisdom in the corners of her heart. "Yes," she replied, the truth flowing through her like sweet nectar. "Sometimes when we think we've lost everything, that's when God's presence is most real." The man's face lit up, a flicker of hope ignited in his spirit. "Thank you. Sometimes just hearing another's testimony is what we need." Their brief exchange turned into a conversation rich with shared truths and laughter, as if two lost travelers had met on a winding path, bound by a common story of rediscovery. Days melded into each other, filled with small miracles, an unexpected gift from a neighbor, a text of encouragement, the tender look in Samuel's eyes as he spoke of his dream of becoming a pilot. Yet, at night, as she reflected in the stillness of her home, Margaret wrestled with the realization that not all were experiencing the same miracle. Some in Longford still carried heavy burdens, hearts wrestling in silence. Margaret understood the weight of communal healing. While her joy was a flickering beacon in her life, the shadows of others needed tending. As she gathered the villagers, hoping to create a time of shared prayer and testimony, a thought struck her. What if God was not just speaking through her miracle, but through the struggles of those around her? With renewed purpose, she chose to listen, to invite others to share their heartaches as well as their triumphs. Maybe together, they could uncover the profound beauty in their intertwined stories, the laughter, the tears, the relentless hope. And so, while Margaret continued to revel in Samuel's recovering strength, the community prepared for an evening that promised to shine light into dark corners, a testimony night, where each heart would have the opportunity to resonate in harmony, echoing the miraculous signs they had witnessed or still longed for. What treasures of faith might bubble to the surface, and who would find solace in those revelations? Just as Margaret prepared her heart and mind for the gathering, she realized she stood at the edge of another divine mystery. What miracles awaited in sharing their stories together? As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting hues of gold and amber across Longford, an electric anticipation hung in the air. The villagers began to gather in the chapel, their faces illuminated by the fading light. A mix of joy and apprehension danced in their eyes. Margaret stood at the entrance, feeling the pulse of hope moving through the crowd. There was something sacred about this moment, a collective heartbeat that drew them all closer. A hush fell over the room as Margaret took her place at the front. The wooden pews creaked beneath the weight of those who had come, many bearing silent struggles. She shared her story, her voice tinged with gratitude as she recounted Samuel's journey back to health. She spoke of the weight lifted, the joy rediscovered, how, through every tear, God's gentle hand had guided her. "And so, dear friends," she concluded, her heart laid bare, "I invite each of you to share. In your pain or in your praise, we are all here together in His love." A ripple of murmurs filled the air. One by one, villagers rose to share their tales. Each story was like a candle lit against the shadows. There was Edward, his eyes glistening as he recounted the struggle of losing his wife. He shared the heartache that once threatened to overwhelm him, but how, amid the deepest sorrow, he had found unexpected peace in prayer. Margaret could see the power of vulnerability working its magic, hearts aligning in shared understanding. Anna, a shy woman with kind eyes, spoke of her battle with illness. "It is more than the body," she said with conviction. "It's the spirit that aches. But God reminded me that even in silence, He listens." As tears welled in the congregants' eyes, laughter emerged. Two stories of revival, of dreams rekindled. The sense of community wrapped around them like a warm blanket, tethering them together in the unbreakable bond of faith. Each testimony stirred something deep in Margaret. She realized that each struggle shared made their collective spirit shine brighter. As the evening wore on, the tone shifted from one of sorrow to one of exaltation. The pastor, witnessing the energy crescendo, stepped forward. "Let us reflect upon the goodness of God. Every story here tonight is a testament to His faithfulness. His voice rang out, lifting their spirits higher. Then something extraordinary happened. A soft glow seemed to envelop the chapel, as if the very walls were infused with divine presence. The flickering candles cast dancing shadows, creating an atmosphere thick with holiness. In that twilight glow, Margaret felt a surge of awe and an inexplicable peace wash over her. "I believe," she proclaimed, "that God calls us not only to celebrate our victories but to embrace our struggles together. In our sharing, we illuminate His purpose." A profound silence followed, filled with the spirits of the gathered faithful soaking in the moment. In that stillness, Margaret felt her heart quicken with hope for those who had yet to speak. Just then, a teenage boy, a newcomer in the village, stood up shyly. I don't know if I can share," he faltered, glancing around nervously. "But I've been angry with God for a long time. I just want to believe again." Tension hung heavy as silence settled once more, the air thick with expectation. What would happen next? Could he find the strength to embrace the healing he so desperately sought? Margaret felt the pull of the moment, the weight of the boy's faith weighed down by silence. Hope flickered within her heart that this testimony night could be the start of his journey. What transformation awaited within that boy? What new stories and signs might unveil themselves amidst the gathering? As each heart beat with collective prayer, Margaret realized their journey was just beginning. The boy's words hung in the air, a fragile thread weaving a new connection among the congregation. Margaret's heart thudded in her chest. The vulnerability he displayed radiated a raw authenticity, and she sensed an unexplainable longing among them all. Each witness wore stories of hurt, yet here was one eager to embrace the divine once more. "Step forward," she urged gently, her voice barely above a whisper. The boy shifted on his feet, uncertainty flickering across his face. Slowly, he took a hesitant step, and with that, a collective breath was shared among them, a silent prayer uniting hearts. As he stood at the front, a breath of encouragement rippled through the crowd. Margaret could feel their support to love, to understand, to lift. "Tell us your name, dear one," she prompted, hoping to encourage his spirit. "Jacob," he murmured, eyes cast down, still wrestling with his turmoil. The name seemed to blossom in the space where pain had festered, resonating in the gentle heartbeats of his neighbors. "Jacob," she repeated, embracing the name, "we're all here for you. You are not alone in this." With those words, the atmosphere shifted. Faces turned toward him, nodding, some even whispering soft encouragement. "We believe in His power to heal your anger, Jacob," one woman said, her voice strong but tender. Taking a deep breath, Jacob looked up. Something inside him wavered, caught between his past struggles and a glimmer of hope. "I've been lost," he began, a tremor threading through his voice. "I thought I knew God. But when my mom got sick..." His voice cracked, revealing the depths of his pain. "I felt abandoned. I thought, if God was good, why didn't He save her?" Margaret felt heat rise in her chest. She understood that fiery ache, the spiritual wrestle with doubt. It rippled through the room, a familiar tension binding them all. They had all faced the question of why at some point in their lives. "But tonight," he continued, his voice steadier, "I realized that maybe I've been asking the wrong questions." He paused, swallowing the knot forming in his throat. "Maybe it's about finding Him in the heartache instead." Tears glistened in Margaret's eyes, as she sensed revelation dawning upon the young man. A moment of silent understanding enveloped them. The people surrounding him nodded as though they were sharing in an ancient ritual of recognition. It was an exchange divine in its nature, the shedding of personal burdens and the embrace of collective faith. The pastor stepped closer, his expression radiant. "You're seeing it, Jacob. Finding God in your sorrow, that's the journey we are all on." With a newfound light shining in his eyes, Jacob added, "And I want to trust again, trust that He can show me the way back." Cheers erupted in the chapel, and it felt as if the air itself bowed in jubilant reverie. Margaret's heart swelled, an uncontainable joy dancing on the edges of her soul. She could sense a ripple of healing sweeping over them all, a fresh wave of hope crashing over their bonded spirits. "Let us pray together," then, Margaret softly suggested, and without hesitation, they all joined hands, forming a chain of faith. In that sacred moment, their voices rose in concert, blending together in a sonorous plea for Jacob's healing, community strength, and divine love. But as they prayed, an unexpected wind stirred through the chapel, engulfing them in a fragrant warmth. Among the whispers and prayers, something beautiful began to unfold, a flicker of divine presence that seemed to envelop them. What might blossom from this night? With hearts newly opened, could they all be transformed in ways they never imagined? In that sacred space, each soul felt a tug toward deeper revelations, beckoning them to a journey of faith yet untold. Margaret felt a profound stir in her spirit, questioning where God might be leading them next. The wind continued to swirl, whispering through the chapel like the soft rustling of angels' wings. It carried with it the scent of lilac, fresh and sweet, a reminder of blossoms that emerge after the rain. In that moment, it felt as if heaven itself was smiling down upon them, encouraging their openness to the divine. Margaret opened her eyes, looking around at the faces of the congregation. There was a newfound glow about them. Eyes sparkled with shared understanding and tears flowed freely, mingling sorrow with the sweetness of hope. She realized this was a moment, a divine appointment that could change everything. Jacob stood amidst them, still grasping tightly to the hands of his neighbors. The warmth of their support pulsed through him. His heart began to beat steadily, a rhythm that aligned with the prayers resonating in the air, weaving through whispers and tender smiles. It was as if, through him, a door was opening not just to personal healing, but to something much larger, a wave of collective reckoning. Sometimes, it takes a little heartache to see the beauty around us, Margaret spoke softly, her eyes locking onto Jacob's. This is a sign, Jacob. A very special reminder that God walks through our pain with us. He nodded, absorbing her words like a sponge soaked in light. I want to help others through their pain too, Jacob said, resolve blossoming in his voice. Yes. A man shouted from the back. We need more of you to share. We all have pain, but together, we can transform it into purpose. The energy shifted, and soon others began to share their stories. Each testimony was a thread, binding them closer together. A woman named Sarah spoke of her struggles with anxiety, another, James, shared his battle with addiction. With each soul that stepped forward, the atmosphere thickened with the presence of God, a tapestry woven with the fabric of shared vulnerability. Margaret felt overwhelmed. There was a profound realization settling in, a clarity that this gathering wasn't merely about individual stories. It was about forging connections, discovering strength in their struggles, and realizing they weren't alone. Light began to dance through the chapel, illuminating their space like the breaking of dawn after a long night. As the stories flowed, she noticed something profound happening. The voices grew bolder, hearts were being set free. There was laughter mingled with tears, and footsteps pressed forward. More and more individuals ventured forward, wanting to share their burdens and their wounds in the light of this newfound community. May we not shy away from our healings, she implored, her heart swelling with pride and awe as she witnessed the transformations happening before her. Let us not just find God in our sorrow, but find Him in our triumphs, our recoveries, and our growth. With a sweeping wave of realization, they all began to echo a shared sentiment. We trust in His goodness. We share in our victories. Margaret lifted her hands in praise, a burst of joy exploding within her. How beautiful it was to see hope drawing nearer, inviting each heart into its embrace. In this holy space, it became evident there was a divinely inspired awakening unfolding, like the petals of a flower opening to the first light of day. Yet, amidst the jubilation, Margaret sensed a deeper calling. What lay ahead was yet unraveled, hovering in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. As the last echoes of prayer faded into a sacred silence, a palpable stillness surrounded them. What lies beyond this moment? Margaret wondered, her spirit tingling with curiosity. A quiet urging stirred in her heart, compelling her to seek out the adventure that awaited them. Could this be the beginning of a miraculous change in their lives? Would Jacob and the others discover the strength to guide others through similar shadows into the brilliant light of grace? In that quiet introspection, Margaret felt a compelling pull, a whisper of divine encouragement beckoning them forward into the journey ahead. What revelation would soon unfold? The chapel remained still, suspended in the electric glow of hope. Margaret could feel the breath of the Spirit swirling around them, stirring hearts in a dance of unity and light. As she looked out at the congregation, a gentle smile brushed her lips. Faces once marked by burdens now radiated with promise, and she sensed the urgency to guide them deeper into this divine presence. "Let us pray," she said, her voice steady yet inviting. The congregation bowed their heads, a collective posture of surrender. The simple act wrapped them in warmth, each heartbeat sinking in prayerful anticipation. Then Margaret spoke, "Lord, open our eyes to the miracles unfolding among us. Let us see the signs of your presence, guiding our every step." They lifted their voices in unison, a chorus breaking free with unmeasured faith. "Amen," echoed around the chapel, lifting their spirits higher. In that sacred moment, Margaret felt a spark ignite in her soul. She glanced over at Jacob, still surrounded by supportive hands, a beacon of hope. Was there something more waiting for him? What awakenings awaited in his journey ahead? She marveled at the thought how far he had already come, yet how far he could still go. As the prayers flowed, a soft whisper caught her ear. Margaret, it was Jacob's voice, threaded with emotion. "I feel like there is something inside waiting to burst forth. I can't explain it, but I need to share it." "Then share, Jacob. Let it out," she encouraged, her heart pounding with excitement for him. As he stood to speak, the congregation leaned in, eager for a glimpse of the mystery unfolding within him. "I feel this burning desire to reach those lost in darkness. I want us to build something, a place where people can heal together, where every story is heard and every heart is mended." Gasps of recognition rippled through the chapel. The fire in Jacob's words sparked a cascade of enthusiasm, hearts drawing together in anticipation of this emerging vision. "Yes, a community of healers." Sarah chimed in, the flicker of inspiration lighting her eyes. "We could gather weekly, sharing, supporting one another, celebrating victories, and embracing our journeys." One after another, others began to rise. Their thoughts poured forth like fresh rain soaking the parched earth. Ideas sparked from the joy flow, workshops on healing, prayer circles, outreach programs for the lost. Margaret stood back, awed as she witnessed their fervor. This was more than a gathering, this was the birth of a movement, a divine calling to be instruments of healing in the world. Sudden stillness blanketed the chapel again. The fervor had ebbed, leaving a serene, expectant hush. What if this is only the beginning? Margaret thought, her heart racing with the thrill of possibility. What could these humble offerings blossom into? The room brimmed with potential, echoing a question only God could answer. How could they harness this energy? A smile crept across her face, warmth spreading through her heart. "Let us trust in the path laid before us," she said, raising her voice once more. "We have the power to change lives, starting right here, right now." In that moment, Jacob, Sarah, and the others were captivated by an unshakable feeling, a sense of divine urgency. They knew that something far greater was in motion. Would they truly venture forward and embrace their gifts? Could this collective journey bring about real transformation in their lives, and ultimately in their community? Margaret's spirit soared with anticipation. With the whispered promises of miracles dancing in her heart, she wondered what would unfold next in their quest for a deeper connection with God and each other. The chapel seemed to pulse with energy, each heart ignited with the realization that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. Margaret took a deep breath, allowing the moment to wash over her, feeling the waves of faith swell. She called for attention. "Let us gather our thoughts and consider what Jacob has started today. This call is not only for him, but for each one of us." Her words floated on the air like incense, reaching deep into the souls gathered before her. Jacob, emboldened, stepped closer. "We have an opportunity to create a sanctuary, a safe place where every person who walks through these doors can feel the touch of healing. Think about it, a haven where we can bring our brokenness and find restoration." His sincerity wrapped around the congregation like a warm blanket. Murmurs of agreement bubbled up, the excitement was tangible. "Imagine," Sarah pondered aloud, "special nights filled with testimonies of transformation. When we share our struggles, we can ease each other's pain." The chapel hummed with voices. "Yes," someone shouted from the back. "We can have healing services. Music. Art. Every avenue that brings us closer to the heart of God." Margaret felt the pull of collective vision, sweeping through the chapel like a refreshing breeze. It was a vision painted with colors of unity and love, a flicker of divine light illuminating the shadows of despair that often cloaked their lives. Together, she asserted, we can extend our arms beyond these walls. Reaching into the community, her heart raced as she sensed something deep welling up within her, a kindling of divine purpose. Reaching those who feel lost, abandoned. Jacob's eyes glistened with tears. We have seen the power of prayer and fellowship change lives. Now, let us take it outward. Imagine the lives we could touch. As they spoke fervently, a ripple of hope washed over the gathering. In this moment, they were weaving threads of intention and love. Their dreams danced in the air, hovering just above them, waiting to be caught like shimmering stars. I feel the Spirit moving, Margaret declared, her voice vibrant. Let us gather our ideas and come together as one body. Let love guide each step we take. We must keep our hearts open to where God leads us. An overwhelming sense of urgency gripped them, a realization that this dream was possible. It wasn't merely a dream, it was a promise waiting to unfold. A young woman rose, her expression earnest. What is stopping us? Let us not waste time. Let us pray right now for guidance and clarity. The chapel instantly stood still again, the air thick with prayerful energy. They bowed their heads, forming a circle of hopeful hearts. As they prayed, a luminous light seemed to glow from the center of their congregation, enveloping them in warmth and grace. Margaret felt tears brim in her eyes, a sweet mixture of joy and awe. There were no ordinary souls among them, everyone carried a gift, an ability to help others soar. When the prayer ended, the atmosphere grew electric. Margaret knew something had shifted, something deep and significant had awakened. May we seize this moment, she whispered, her heart soaring. Every idea presented, every voice heard, all is part of His divine plan. The congregation slowly returned to a buzz of ideas. They were ready, each heartbeat echoing the collective commitment to move forward. Yet, Margaret sensed there were still unanswered questions, that the horizon of possibility stretched far beyond their immediate grasp. What if they weren't just destined for healing among themselves but for the entire world? As the excitement swelled, a silence fell moments later over the chapel, a quiet anticipation thickening the air. The Holy Spirit stirred anew, and a thought flashed through Margaret's mind: what if this journey into the unknown led them to a larger purpose, one that could reach further than they ever imagined? The challenge lay before them, and with it came the divine mystery. What would it mean when their faith collided with the world waiting to be healed? The atmosphere in the chapel felt charged with a profound sense of purpose. Whispered prayers and excited murmurings blended together, creating a symphony of faith that echoed off the walls. Margaret stood in the center, her heart swelling with anticipation. The room had transformed, it was no longer merely a chapel, but a beacon ready to send light into the world. Let us consider how each of us can contribute, Jacob encouraged, raising his hand to capture their attention. Every idea, big or small, can spark something mighty. The enthusiasm was infectious. One by one, people began to share their visions. Sensing a surge of energy, Sarah stood again, a twinkle in her eye. What if we organized community gatherings? Each one built around sharing our unique talents. Art shows, music nights, even poetry readings, every event could be a doorway to healing. Yes. Others added, a wave of excitement rippling through the crowd. And let us invite local artists, musicians, anyone who yearns to connect. Margaret felt her spirit soar with every rising voice. The visions shared were like seeds falling upon fertile ground. The warmth of their unity wrapped around her, filling her with an almost divine excitement. But inside, uncertainty danced around her heart. Could they truly extend their reach beyond those familiar faces? What if their spark here ignited a wildfire of faith in the community? Let us not forget to walk humbly, she reminded gently, breaking through the jubilant din. As we step out in faith, we should always seek His guidance. It's His heart we wish to share. Her eyes scanned the room, meeting each gaze. She saw excitement, hope, and perhaps a flicker of doubt, the mix of humanity that binds them all. Just then, an older gentleman named David, who seldom spoke, cleared his throat. What if he started, his voice steady though soft? What if we shared our testimonies, our struggles? They could serve as gifts of vulnerability. Through honesty, we can show others the beauty of God's grace. His words hung in the air, heavy with sincerity. The silence that followed felt sacred, a shared moment of reflection. Each heart was measuring the truth that lay within that call. Being open with their struggles could indeed be a bridge to others. Exactly. It's when we acknowledge our brokenness that God shines through, Jacob replied, his enthusiasm renewed. The congregation buzzed with conversations, ideas bouncing between them like popcorn. Each suggestion inspired the next, each voice contributing to the growing vision of their mission. Margaret listened, feeling the flow of the Spirit moving among them. It was like rivers of light weaving through darkness, creating a tapestry rich with stories of redemption. As ideas began to crystallize, Margaret felt the energy shift in a curious way. It was a sense of collective urgency, as if an unspoken weight lay in the air, urging come alive. Friends, she said softly, bringing stillness once more, what do you believe God desires from us in this moment? A palpable tension rippled across the gathered bodies, each person reflecting inwardly. She saw contemplation etched on their faces, the spark of truth igniting in their minds. Suddenly, a gentle whisper of wind seemed to sweep through the chapel. Could that be the Spirit calling them? Hearts synchronized in prayer, the words melding into a singular vibration of hope and faith. Let us seek answers together, she encouraged, leading them back into prayer, this time with a fervor born of conviction. As they bowed once more, hands grasping each other, the light felt brighter, the presence of love palpable. Something deep within Margaret stirred. She could feel their collective faith pulling them toward a transformation, yet what awaited them was still cloaked in the mystery of God's perfect plan. What lay beyond this leap of faith? The thrill of the unknown sent a quiver of excitement through her. Was this just the beginning? As their voices rose in prayer, one question loomed larger than the others: how could their newfound purpose flourish, igniting change? Not just in each other, but throughout the entire community? And there, in the heart of the chapel, surrounded by hope and dreams waiting to blossom, the journey began. What awaited on the other side of their commitment? The moment Margaret and her companions lifted their heads from prayer, a tangible sense of anticipation lingered in the air. It was as if the very walls of the chapel were holding their breaths, waiting to witness the unfolding of something extraordinary. With renewed purpose shining in their eyes, people started to formulate plans. Let us not waste this energy, Jacob urged, his voice ringing with passion. We can gather resources, find a schedule, and define what each of us can bring to the table. This can be more than just a gathering, it can be a movement. Slowly but surely, the chatter enveloped the space, creating a warm atmosphere that felt both electric and sacred. Ideas ignited, sparking dialogues that cascaded like wild flames. Margaret noted the varied gifts unwrapped in the discussions. Some had a talent for music, others with art, and a few brought marvelous storytelling abilities. Each contribution was a note in a melody that yearned to be played to the world. Let us not forget the children, Sarah interjected, her voice filled with youthful zeal. We could set up workshops. Let us teach them about our faith through creativity. They need to know our stories, our struggles, and our joys. They are the future. This comment sent a ripple of agreement around the room. Margaret felt a wave of warmth. All at once, the realization blossomed within her: it wasn't merely about events and gatherings, it was about embedding faith deeply within the fabric of their community. As conversations rumbled, Margaret noticed David sitting quietly in the corner, his gaze thoughtful. In a voice soft yet unwavering, he reiterated his earlier thought. We should also bear each other's burdens. Perhaps we can create a compassion group where we can genuinely be there for one another. It'll remind us that no one walks this path alone. His words resonated powerfully. A hush fell over the group, embracing the weight of truth. They needed to do more than talk about their beliefs, they must live it visibly and vulnerably together. Emily, a kind-hearted soul always quick to inspire, chimed in, yes. We could share meals, stories, and laughter. A commingling of souls. This will cultivate an environment where healing flows like a river. At that moment, it struck Margaret, they were in the midst of weaving a rich tapestry of life that embraced their struggles, victories, and aspirations. Each of them was a vibrant thread, unique yet bound together to create a stronger whole. Friends, we should also remember to pray as we take steps forward. Every gathering, every plan, let it be rooted in prayer, Margaret suggested, her heart glowing with excitement. With that, they offered up their dreams, plans, and even their fears to God as a collective offering. Spirit-led prayers rose again, carrying their intentions on wings of hope. The chapel vibrated with a divine resonance, creating an atmosphere thick with grace. Suddenly, Margaret felt a gentle warmth enveloping her. Closing her eyes, she registered the sensation of being filled, almost overflowing, by a divine presence. It was hope, love, and a whisper of guidance reassuring her that they were on the cusp of something breathtaking. What was this stirring in their hearts? What might emerge from their commitment to each other and to God? A thought brushed across her mind. Were they prepared for the metamorphosis of their community? Were they ready to face the inevitable challenges that would arise? Uncertainty loomed just ahead, yet it was intertwined with an overwhelming sense of excitement. How could they embrace this journey faithfully, grounded in love? And while they bowed their heads once more, hearts anointed with hope, the question lingered: what would they discover about God's plans as they stepped boldly into the possibility of tomorrow? The dawn broke over Longford with a golden glow, casting light upon the chapel where newfound dreams lingered in the air. Margaret awoke with the flutter of anticipation in her heart, a sensation as soft as a dove's wing yet as powerful as a whisper from heaven. Today was different. Today they would put their faith into action. She could feel the community thrumming with excitement. As she arrived at the chapel, she saw villagers gathering, energy rippling through the space as they embraced the mission birthed from their vulnerability. Young and old, every face bore the imprint of purpose, eyes sparkling with hope. Through each shared story last night, an unbreakable bond had formed. They were not merely a congregation but a family ignited by faith. Margaret stood before them, her heart swelling. "Beloved friends, today we take our first step," she declared, her voice echoing with divine excitement. "Let us be the hands and feet of God. Let us spread His love into every corner of our community." A rousing cheer erupted, filling the chapel with a chorus of souls ready to serve. With hearts intertwined, they divided themselves into teams, each assigned to different aspects of their mission. Some planned outreach for the lonely in nearby neighborhoods, others organized support for families struggling with illness and loss. A group sparked enthusiasm for arts and crafts to engage the youth and teach them about faith through creativity. It was exhilarating. These individuals who once carried heavy burdens now stood strong, united in purpose. Margaret saw Jacob emerge from the crowd, his eyes gleaming with inspiration. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice unwavering, "what if we create a weekly gathering in open space for sharing stories and testimonies? A sanctuary where everyone feels welcomed and known. Yes. A healing haven." Several voices echoed, excitement bubbling. "We can invite the wider community. Everyone needs to see God's grace at work." As they brainstormed, Margaret sensed God moving among them, whispering messages of hope as they devised plans. It was a beautiful sight. Creativity flowed like a stream, and laughter echoed as they envisioned not just transforming their own lives, but reaching outside those chapel walls. Hours turned into days, and as preparations unfolded, Longford began to buzz with renewed purpose. Posters hung in shop windows, colorful flyers adorned community boards. The spirit of anticipation was tangible. What once felt uncertain now seemed like a river, rushing toward uncharted territories. Event day dawned bright and clear. The chapel overflowed with visitors, neighbors, strangers, and newcomers drawn by the ripple of stories shared. The love radiating within the sacred walls enveloped everyone like a warm embrace, igniting hearts yearning for connection, acceptance, and hope. As voices rose in song, Margaret felt the energy shift. It was no longer just about testimonies, it was about the collective power of faith washing over them all. She caught a glimpse of Jacob supporting a neighbor, gently listening to her heartache, his presence a balm. Sarah led a soul-stirring listening prayer circle with others, their voices lifting like incense, drawing them closer to God. In that moment, Margaret understood this was a manifestation of God's love in action. Each smile, each shared tear, was a testament to how profoundly they had come together. The burdens once carried in silence were now revealed as stories of redemption, raw and beautiful. As the evening unfolded, laughter and joy bubbled around them. Each soul present bore witness to not just the healing power of God but to the profound impact of community. They danced, shared meals, and sang praises. Margaret's heart soared. They had created something pure, filled with divine intent and overflowing with grace, and then it happened. A soft breeze swept through the chapel, almost like a divine whisper. The lights flickered and a gentle hush enveloped the room. In that sacred stillness, Margaret felt the presence of God like never before. The close-knit, Community and their joyful service filled the space, reverberating with a heavenly message. "You are my beloved children," the whisper echoed inside her heart, a beautiful assurance. "In your gatherings and your love, you have opened a doorway to healing. Lean into this journey, I am with you." Tears of joy fell from her eyes as she looked around, soaking in the atmosphere of worship and community enveloping her. Everyone was connected to each other, to God, to the extraordinary plans tangled in the fabric of their lives. That night marked the beginning of what would become a legacy of love within the village of Longford. As Margaret and her friends embraced the beautiful call of service, they understood the power of their journey had only just begun. They were more than mere witnesses of God's miracles, they were living testimonies, hearts alive with faith, endlessly entwined in a shared purpose. Margaret extended her arms wide, speaking into the hearts gathered before her. "Together, let us remember, we are not alone. Whether in joy or sorrow, we bear witness to the miracle of God alive among us. Let us carry this light into the world because love is the most powerful miracle of all." And so, the stories continued to flow, the testimonies blossomed, and the warmth of community thrived, an ever-growing circle of faith, embracing all who dared to come. The people of Longford, gripped by the presence of God, transformed all who lingered near, rippling grace through their small village with each revelation shared. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to miss the next exclusive faith stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to conquer this algorithm with the power of our testimony. Comment below with your reactions and testimonies about how faith has manifested in your life, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who are desperate for a touch of God's love in their lives. This is the moment to show your support for all that God is doing.